Hello and welcome to Meet Your Inspiration podcast with Mary and Rich. Here we're talking about inspiration, motivation, and empowerment. Our guests are ordinary people who became extraordinary, and we're sharing their stories. We want to help you to become the person you want to be and to go beyond your dreams. Today we are very happy to welcome our second international guest on the podcast, and we're saying a very big welcome to Septia here.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Septia. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. It's amazing how we found you several months back on LinkedIn. Obviously, we saw your profile, and one of your posts stood out to us immediately because we were thinking about your determination. Obviously, when you're obviously from Indonesia, when you came over to Europe, you were looking for a university to study, and most people apply to a university and they maybe get in and straight away and then off they go, but you ended up having rejection after rejection after rejection, and you found your way. So what an incredible journey. So first of all, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you with us, and we look forward to hearing your story. So let's start
Thank you
with
so much.
how it all started.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. It's incredible how one post that I did could just make you lead you to me, and here we are. So, yeah, I started the application. It was I started in 2019 actually. That's when I started to apply to French universities. And then, but at that point, I only learned French not even 2 years, but I was like, let me just give it a go. And then if I fail, I will learn anyway. And then who knows, right? So I applied to 7 universities at that time. Everyone rejected me.
Wow.
and and yeah, I kept learning French again because at that time I was only at the B2 level in French, and it was the limit. So I was aiming for C1, and I got C1, and I apply again. I refine all my application, motivation letter, CV, research more studies, and only apply to those that suits my profile. And voila, I guess 3 universities accepted me finally.
Wow.
Wow,
So
that sounds
long
good
story
after
short,
the
yeah.
rejections. Just tell us on that time when you were applying, have you been obviously in Europe already or you were still in Indonesia?
I was still in Indonesia at that time. I was
And,
still working a full-time job as a journalist. And
and what makes you to obviously decide to come in Europe? What was the
yeah,
reason?
yeah, I since I was younger, I've always wanted to study abroad. And at that time, I at the beginning I was just learning languages, and as I was learning French, I found that um, like the tuition fee over there for international students are is like affordable. And I was like, okay, interesting, so let me learn the language even more. I mean, who knows. And then when I was learning the languages, I read a lot of articles and like TV reports, and a lot of content in French. And then I figured like, oh, I see like more of journalism pieces that people in France do, and I saw how different it is than how it is in Indonesia. Like things are so much detailed. The topics that they bring to the surface is it's how they convey a reportage and how they cover different angles. It's something that I want to learn more. So at that time, I was like, I think studying journalism in France, it's going to be like a good idea. And I know like I can learn so much from even from what I've seen when I was learning the language. So yeah, that's how I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn journalism in France.
For me, this sounds really difficult, journalism in French, because I study half of my life French. I love the language, but to be honest, it is a difficult one. And
It is.
yeah, you will
It
know
is
much
very
better than me. So obviously you've been accepted, you come in France. What were the first thoughts? How you were feeling? Obviously excited, I'm sure a bit worried or fear. I don't know. What were the? How did you feel?
Yeah. So when I first get the acceptance letter, of course I was excited because after 7 rejections, and then even before this acceptance letter, there was also like rejections before. So I was like a bit nervous when I saw the announcement, and then I saw like it was accepted. I was like, oh my god, that's incredible. So of course, like the next few days I was excited. I was like, oh my god, finally it's happening, I'm going to France. So but then like things started to come, like you have to prepare for visa, you have to prepare for your studies, you have to like, oh wait, I'm gonna study journalism in French. How is it gonna be? And so even when I told my colleague like about that, like one of my colleagues were saying like, you're going to study journalism in French, are you sure you can do that? Like you can speak French that's fluent?
Good.
And I was like, no. But
You
but
had a goal. That was
yeah,
important. You had a goal.
exactly. And I know like I speak English well, I think. And I've never been to any English speaking countries. So I was thinking, well, maybe if I go to France directly, it will be like, you know, it will get better and better. So I prefer to just go there and see than like, oh no, I cannot do it. Like, and I don't think I'm gonna make it, so I'm not gonna do it. And then you're always going to wonder, like, what if? So
Septia, can I ask? Did you meet any French people in Indonesia at various different times before you travelled, so you could actually practice your French? Was there any opportunity to do that?
yeah, yeah, actually, like when I was learning French, I also downloaded like an application where you can language exchange. So yeah, I spoke to French people before coming, but then again, it's a type of it's a sort of practice, and I mean it was really helpful for me. But then like when you're in the country, it's like so
I
different.
want to ask you, how did you feel? Obviously, you know French. You came in France. How did you feel when you start talking here?
Yeah. So
Obviously, in France, because I'm
yeah,
pretty sure it was far different than what you study back in
yeah, exactly.
Indonesia.
So I arrived in France, right? And actually, like there, it was a mixed feeling. I was excited, but I was scared at the same time. And I guess like the first time I arrived, because at that point it was COVID, so
Oh,
my there was like a delay on my visa, and I got my visa like 10 days before my study
oh,
started. So like I got my visa, I booked the flight like 3 days for the three days later. No, I mean I got the visa and 3 days later I go. I think so. It was very last minute. I didn't have a lot of time to like just enjoy France. It was just come and then apartment, bank account, everything, and then the language barrier, and so like all of those in the same time was a lot stressful for me. And yeah, like even the first class that I attended, I went there, it was it was just like briefing class, right? Like, this is what you're going to study, this is what, this is the schedule and the rules and everything. And sitting there was like, okay, I understand a few words, but I don't understand everything. I understand like some some points, but like there's still some gap that needs to fill, that I still need to fill. So at that point I was like, oh
Mm.
shit, I'm lost. And so the briefing ended, and they gave me like a sheet for the scheduling, and they actually explained it during the briefing, but I didn't get it. So I was like,
Wow.
what is this scheduling? I don't understand. Like, when which one is my schedule, because it looks so complicated. So I was like, oh my god. I looked to the I went to the professor, and then I said like, hey sir, and I tried to speak, and then he saw that I was struggling to speak, and then he was like, English, yes please. So I spoke in English with the professor at that time. So yeah, and the first practical class, it was like the real class. So it was a class for writing, I think, writing articles. And so the teacher came and explained about things, and then after, I was just like, I was trying to understand whatever I could understand. But like, I think after some point, all of a sudden, all like the students went out of the classroom, and I was like, what's happening? Like, why is everyone going out? And then I went to the teacher, and then actually, like, the teacher asked the students to go to the road and interview people and then write something. But I didn't get any of that, so I was like, how am I going to interview people? But luckily at that time, there was also someone who was asking the teacher, and the teacher was just like, oh, you can go with him, you can go like tandem with him and just follow and listen. So yeah, it was like, at the beginning I was really like lost, but after, I would say, like 3 months, because I was so forced to do interviews like this one, like the one that I mentioned before. At some point I have to do interview myself. So yeah, after 3 months, like, luckily I was a lot less afraid, and I understand a lot more, and I could even do interview, even though sometimes I have to like record and do the transcript.
Have you been determined all the time? I mean, did you had any moment that you were thinking, "Oh, I can't do that, and I should give up," or this wasn't in your thought process? You've been always sure that it is difficult at the moment, but I'm gonna get where I want, and I'll make it.
Yeah, of course, like, there are some point where I was like, what am I doing here? Especially the first few months, because like I said, I it was difficult with the language barrier. Like, even to take notes, I couldn't. So I was thinking at that point, like, I'm not gonna make it. How am I gonna make it if I cannot even take notes? If I cannot understand what they're saying? If I cannot talk to them? So of course, like, at the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna fail. Like, this is not gonna work. But then, funny story is, like, during this the thing that I was mentioning before, like, you have to go to the road and interview people. That's when I encounter another student. She's from Vietnam, and she's also learning like the same study as me, but she's like 1 year ahead. So in
Okay.
the second year, and I was in the first year. So at that time, I was like I get in contact with her, and I think I was like, okay, I guess if I contact another foreigners, it will, like ease me a bit, and like to ask her like how has it been for her, and if she told me like some encouraging words, maybe it will help. So yeah, I contacted her. She told me like, don't worry, like it will be, like it's gonna be okay. I was there also. There were even someone who didn't if who were like you, couldn't speak a lot, like couldn't understand a lot, but he made it. He get better after a few months, and you're in France, so you can only practice and improve. So you'll get there. So it really helped me, like seeing other people who was in my position, who was also a foreigner studying journalism, and thinking how difficult it was, and at the end she made it at least until second year. So it makes me like, okay, I think I can do it.
Were there many times when the French people would help you out and say, "Well, actually, this is where you say this word, or this is the expression, or this is the tense"? Because obviously, like to get the grammar right and the tense right, were they really helpful to you, or did they sort of like wait and watch and see you sort of like almost struggle until you got it right?
No,
How did it
you
work?
mean like the other students or the
Yes, yeah,
teachers?
yeah. The French students, particularly around you, did they help you a little bit?
Yeah, of course, like they help me a lot. For they're not correcting your grammar, of course. Like as long as they understand me, they will just go along with it.
Yeah,
Unless if there is something that they don't understand, then they will say something, and then like, oh, you mean this, but not like, oh, this is the right grammar that you have to do.
good.
But also they were really helpful. Like I said, I couldn't even take notes. Like I could say, when I was hearing the professor, I tried to take notes, and I would just say, like, I would just write, let's say, like three words, and I was after that I was like, what did he say again? But the other students were really helpful, and sometimes I can just ask them to, like, hey, do you mind if I borrow your notes and like copy your notes, because it's difficult for me. And everyone was really helpful. um there were people who were exchanging notes, and even in the group, like they even type it on the computer and then just share it to me. So it was really helpful, and
Oh,
that's
that's
why,
good.
yeah. So I'm
Mm.
so thankful for that. Otherwise it was not going to be possible for me. So yeah.
It's certainly a very courageous thing to do because to learn another language, particularly obviously being an English speaker, like we're hopeless at learning languages generally. So it's always very difficult. But it's very powerful to think to sort of you really stuck with it and struggled through and made that effort. I mean, it's phenomenal achievement really to do it. And I think anyone who learns a new language, I think maybe people who've learned several languages, obviously it maybe makes it a little bit easier to learn another one because
Maybe.
you understand the structure of how to do it. But when you don't know, and it's very hard because most people like relate back to their own language, their home language, and think, well, how would I say it in that? And they sort of, because different languages and different people say it in different ways, and that makes it difficult to understand the tense and whether it's masculine or feminine, which obviously in
Yeah.
French is really quite a powerful aspect, and it's quite
Yeah.
hard to learn it. So yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you compare to Indonesian language, we have no grammar. We have
Okay,
no grammar. We just put words after words after words. There's like, we say I, me, my, the same. We say I eat now, I eat yesterday, I eat tomorrow, the same word.
yeah,
Yeah, no past tense, no future tense. And yeah, exactly. With, like you said, with the masculine, feminine, and like subjunctive.
mm.
There's like,
Yeah.
I don't think it even exists in English, and it makes it really really difficult. But yeah, like you said, maybe if I already learned French. If I learn another language that's similar, like Spanish, for example, maybe it will make it easier for me in the future.
Another challenge.
Another
But at
challenge.
least we can always say that at least French is difficult but sounds
Yeah, definitely.
fantastic. It's
Ah,
one
yeah, that's
very
true.
beautiful language. Are
Yeah.
you using French now? How is
I actually
because
my
obviously you're not in France. Let's say
yeah
to our listeners, you moved to
The
uh,
Netherlands.
Am- yeah,
yeah.
Netherlands. So, what is the language that you use most there?
Uh, Actually, my partner or husband is French, so
Ah, that makes it easier.
yeah. So sometimes we speak French a bit, even though we also mix it with English, and it helps because otherwise I will totally lose it. I think
Hmm.
but in here in Amsterdam, everyone speak English, and yeah, before moving here, I wanted to learn Dutch, but then I came here. There are a lot of expats, a lot of internationals, and you can go by with English, and I'm like, okay, then I
I'm not good.
I don't learn Dutch
And
anymore. Maybe
what
next.
makes you to move from France to Netherlands?
Well, it's a personal thing because my husband is living in Amsterdam,
All right.
so yeah, so that's why I'm here.
So, Septia, did you want to do? Obviously, having studied journalism in France, did you then want to do work for a newspaper or a media outlet in France to sort of further that, so you could sort of develop your career more in journalism? Was that your long term goal, having studied journalism?
Well, at the beginning, I wanted to study journalism. At the beginning, it was the goal, but um, after I learned journalism and then I figured things out with LinkedIn, I pivot a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I think okay, I'm not doing journalism anymore. But then I pivoted to LinkedIn ghostwriting, which still use a lot of journalistic skills and activities like interviewing and of course writing and research. So yeah, now I I would say during my studies I realized because when you're journalism you work not even 9 to 5 anymore. Sometimes you work at night, sometimes early in the morning. And when I was young, it was exciting. But now, as I get older, I'm like, I think I want to find something else where I have more freedom, but still use the skills that I've got. So
So ghostwriting. So you do ghostwriting and copywriting. Those are your two key skills, I guess, in terms of you use every day. So how do you find using LinkedIn, and how do you find it easier to find clients through LinkedIn? Is that your sort of main way of finding, or do you get recommendations?
yeah, my way is mostly with content and of course with outreaching. So like my content, for example, it's not only to get clients but also to share about me and about my expertise, and then of course one of the goal is to get more clients. And it's a process, but there are results that I see, and I think LinkedIn is a really good way to, like, also you said, like, to find clients, because this is where professionals hang out, this is where decision makers hang out. So for me it's been a good experience for that in LinkedIn.
How long you are spending time on LinkedIn?
How
Because when
long?
we met you, yeah, how
Yeah.
long you are a bit, let's say, active on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I was all in end of January. Before that I was already like trying to write, but I was not so consistent. I was like, I started, like, really, really started to write. It was October last year. But then again, it was not strategic at all. It was, and I didn't post like regularly. Sometimes I post like once a week and then 2 weeks not posting and then another post.
Hmm.
But I get
Because of
serious in
yeah, I think
January.
this is the time when we met you, probably around February,
Yeah,
because
I
we were
think.
just starting our podcast when we
Mm,
met you. And
yeah,
I remember you were in the beginning of your journey, and
it
we
was.
are very pleased to see that 7 months later, you are up to 3,000 followers, and we can see that you've got lots of engagement, which, and you're giving
Yeah,
lots of good advices to the people, which as well I think makes it very important. But it's incredible to see you grow for just few
thank
months.
you.
So obviously you're doing it right, and you use your skills that you go through. The study so difficult, you're doing it great. So keep going. LinkedIn
Thank
need
you so
people. We
much.
need people to help us.
Yeah, right? I started in end of January. I think, like, to be serious, like really serious, it was end of January. And that's when I was more strategic on the post and on other strategies. And yeah, it's like you said, it's been going well, growing steadily. But and I want to grow even more, of course. And it's also crazy because it was one of my first posts that Richard found it and invited me for the podcast. So yeah, it was nice. Like,
Yeah,
how did
because
you?
this is what we are looking. We're looking for people like
Ah,
you, as we said, just because all this resilience that you had, and it's very interesting to hear about the background and the thoughts that were going through you to be so, I don't know, so determined to go and achieve that. And I'm coming from another country as well, and
oh
I
really?
know that it's quite difficult to go in another country and to start from the
Oh,
beginning, to be on your own. And
yeah.
what you've done, lots of people will ask what you're doing from Indonesia here, where we all want to go to the nice holidays over there. But this needs to be quite strong and quite determined, and to go on a place where, this is why I ask you about the language, because I was studying, as I said, half of my life French and lots of English. But when I come in England, and when I went to the bank or to the shop, and I was shocked because they were talking absolutely different English that I knew. And
Right?
it
Exactly.
was it was like I told that I know language, and I was very confident. But then it turned out, but it looks like I was learning much more American English, and the British English for me was very strange. And when
Okay.
I start to talk, when we study, we learn very good the grammar and how to say everything, rather than people on their day to day life. They don't talk that way. They just
Exactly.
cut some words. They do, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
imagine I go in the bank or somewhere and I start like from a book, and and they look at me and they're like, "Are you okay?" Yes, I am. But obviously, it was very, very a funny moment. But this is where I found your experience really interesting, because it makes a difference, and this is really nice for the people to hear that there are ups and downs. It's not easy way, but this is why we need to really appreciate the efforts, because a person like you need to do double and triple the efforts in another country to achieve the level and to do like the
exactly.
others.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm sure at the end, once you graduate, was incredible feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you were absolutely right when you said I have to not only double the effort, but I would say triple maybe
Hmm.
the effort, because like I remember during the exam week, all of other students, like there was exam on Monday and people were still partying Friday night, and then they were like, let's just go to the party, and I was like, no, I have to study. And then they're like, just do it tomorrow. I can't, I'm not like you. I cannot just like
Hmm.
read it once and then get everything, I have to do it. I have to read it once, underline the words I don't understand,
Hmm.
Google translate it, and then read it again to make it make sense, and then read it
Hmm.
again the second time to make it like really stick, and maybe like the third time to, because it's my third language. It's not like it's my first language. I read everything and I understand, and then it will stick in my head. No, I have to like
Hmm.
triple the effort. So yeah, like I spend the week, the whole weekend to study where people can just do it like overnight, you know?
From today's point of view, when you look back, do you think that all this worth it? Are you
Yeah.
happy with what's happened, or if you go back, would you change anything? Or you're happy with the path you choose, all the struggles you went through? Are you happy with the result and where you are now?
Let me think about it. The fact that I'm happy that I didn't give up, of course, that I, like, despite all the hardship and all the challenges, that I went, like, I pushed forward and I'm here. I'm a degree richer than, like, like, oh, it's hard, I give up, because there was also someone in the program who is also a foreigner that didn't make it. So I'm happy that I make it as a foreigner. Um, if I guess, because like I said to you, something just clicked in me that maybe I'm not pursuing journalism anymore. But if I can go back, like maybe I would choose a different study instead of journalism, because let like when I moved to Amsterdam with journalism studies, it was like difficult to find a job,
Hmm.
especially like journalism. It needs like the language fluency, of course, and the knowledge of the country of everything. I would probably choose another study. Like my bachelor degree was in PR communication. Maybe I would choose that more instead of
Hmm.
journalism, that it would make it easier for me to like settle in a new country, I think. But then again, like if you look at the outcome right now, like I'm still doing LinkedIn ghostwriting using the journalism skills and knowledge that I have gained from the study, then I don't regret that.
Hmm.
Does
I
that
think
answer
it's a
your?
That's good. Yeah, you use whatever you learn and you have,
Yeah.
you just how is transform it in the way that you feel much more comfortable to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I said, during my studies, there was a lot of hardship, of course, and you have to find sources. I think I discovered during my studies that there are things that I don't like in journalism, like the uncertainties, for example. That is something that I think, like, okay, in my future career, I want to omit this. So I I was already thinking during my studies, how can I pivot? So I was thinking at the beginning, oh, I can do content writing, which is writing articles and blogs. Like it's still writing, it's still also like researching and all in all like journalism skills and activities. And then as I was already content writing at the beginning I was thinking to get more clients for content writing in LinkedIn, but then I fall in love with LinkedIn writing, and I thought, oh, I can do it for other people also. So now I pivot again to LinkedIn content writing while I'm still doing also article writing on the side.
So, Septia, can I ask you, with regard to LinkedIn, in terms of how you present the content and how you put it together, what advice would you give to people who are starting out, particularly using LinkedIn to build the profile and to actually make it grow? And what things do you think that really makes a big difference to sort of make that growth happen? What have you discovered over these last 7 months? So obviously to go from 0 to 3,000 followers in just 7 months is quite a massive achievement in itself. So you must be doing something right, and there must be some really good tips you got for people, I guess.
Thank you. First of all, advice, there's a lot of advice, of course, but I think what makes the difference, first of all, is the personalized content. Because before, when I was just writing content at the end of the year, like I said before, was not strategic. I was just writing what's in my head and what I thought would be useful for others. But then right now, I'm still doing what, I still write what I'm thinking, what I think is a good idea to share, but not just sharing words, but not just sharing, for example, insights or just sharing advice, but make it personal. Like, for example, at the beginning, I was writing about how motivation is not the key to action. You can actually take action without motivation. Like, that's the idea.
Mm.
That's what I was writing at the beginning, at the end of the year, last year, but there was not a lot of traction, there was not a lot of likes, because I was just saying, like, you don't have to, you don't need motivation to take action, you just have to go for it and then it will happen. That was what I did. But now I'm doing it more like I tell a story. So this is still the same idea, but I insert my case in it. So it was the post a few weeks ago when I said, this morning I didn't feel like doing anything. But then I forced myself to get up, and then I forced myself to prepare, I forced myself to go to the library. And as soon as I get up, I feel more awake. As soon as I go to the library, I feel more productive. And as soon as I finish my first task, I want to do more. And then I insert at the end, which is the same as my old post, action, motivation is not necessary for action. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
so now I'm doing more like personalized
You
story.
just go through your experiences and a bit
Yeah, yeah,
through
exactly.
your day. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so I
quite
think
good advice.
Yeah, I think that's what makes a difference. So if you have an insight, of course, like you have your own expertise, and you have a lot of tips, your own tips to share. And instead of just sharing the tips, or instead of just sharing advice, insert your story there. And then at the end, like, you can still include the advice. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think if you put that personal angle in, people can they can relate to it directly themselves because they see themselves in what you're posting
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
just an instruction manual. Obviously, it's very easy to write inspirational statements and to put things
Yeah.
together, which is something we've done quite a lot in our posting history. I think with Beyond Our Dreams, just to write things to just give people that great inspiration. But I think the next step, as you say, is to have it so it's absolutely 100% relatable. And that's,
Yeah.
for us, the medium of the podcast and to be able to share people's stories with an intimate background, because everyone has got a story to tell, and the story is the bit that becomes really compelling, and how we actually utilize the things that we're doing each and every day. And I think that makes a huge difference. So I think you're right to
Yeah.
focus on storytelling, and obviously
Yeah.
from a journalistic point of view, obviously you've
Yeah.
learned the art of storytelling, which is really good.
Yeah. I mean, it comes in advantage to me right now.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
During
So like,
your journey, oh, sorry, yeah.
I just want to get like another example. Like for example, let's say you want to say like my post today, like you want to inspire people like to overcome fear, and instead of just sharing a quote and some motivational word with it, share your story where you overcome fear, for example, and then you can put the quote at the end.
Yeah,
Voila.
definitely. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you during your journey and since your young age, um, was did someone play the role of influence or mentor for you, motivation that you want to be like someone? Did someone influence your choices, your path?
Okay, that's a good idea, a good question. uh well, this might sound like generic or cheesy, but it's my mom. Like a lot of people, I would say. I mean, she didn't go to another country or learn a new language, but I've always admired her as an independent woman, as because right now she's 71, and she's still doing amazing. She's doing freelance work, freelance finance auditor, like still doing it. And
Wow.
also like the fact that she was um what is the word, laid off. She was laid
Yeah.
off when I was in primary school at that time.
Wow.
So it was a difficult time for my parents. Me, I was a kid. I didn't understand anything. I had what, I mean, I still had food, so I didn't understand that they were struggling. But I know like she was struggling at the beginning to find like another job, or like financially struggling. But then she get back on her feet gradually. That she had like she had her boss who were introducing her to freelancing, and then slowly, because of her hard work and her networking skills, she managed to get like more and more and more clients, and it was like thriving. And I saw like from that she was freelancing since, I don't even know, I think it was like more than 15 years ago.
Wow.
So at that moment, I think I was like, I want to be like her. I want to also be free, like geographically, or for like time freedom, that I can still like stay like at home and then mingle with my family and go somewhere else and then still do my work. And it was inspired by my mom, who is doing it for 15 years and even now.
Septia, can I ask you, how does it compare in Indonesia to in Europe in terms of to find work? Is it the same, would you say, or is it, because obviously there's the population of Indonesia is so huge, though it's a very compact country. Obviously, the population density is very high, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of people everywhere. So that must make it hard to find work, because obviously the competition is great for every single job. So would you say it's harder in Indonesia compared to in Europe, or would you say it's about the same? How would you compare?
I cannot really say like generally, because of course, like I'm Indonesian applying in Indonesia, it's different. And now I'm Indonesian applying in the Netherlands, which is a whole different context. But
Mm,
from my experience, I was after I graduated my bachelor degree, I it took me like 3 months to get a job. It was also difficult at the beginning. Like I was looking here, like left and right, like rejection after rejection, because, like you said, there was a lot of people. Like the population is so dense. Like there's not a
mm,
lot of um, there's not a lot of jobs for everyone. But eventually, after 3 months, I managed to find a job. But in the Netherlands, it's not the same at all because my background is in journalism. And like I said earlier, in this field, you need the language and the knowledge of the country, of the environment, the culture, a lot of things. So for me to apply jobs in journalism in the Netherlands, it's a lot more difficult for me.
mm,
But
mm.
maybe if it's like tech or engineering or scientific field, it would be a lot different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. Definitely, it's a big challenge. So next, can we ask you a little bit about? So, would you go back to Indonesia, having lived in Europe, or would you like to stay? Obviously, having a French husband, I'm sure you're going to stay for a long time, unless he wants to go to Indonesia for a time. But would you ever consider going back, or are you happy to stay in Europe? And how would you like to develop next? What would you like to go on to next? What's your next ambition and your plans?
Yeah. The plan is to stay here, of course, because my husband is living here. But that's also the reason I'm doing freelancing and remote working. Is because I want to be not only stuck in one country, but be able to go back home to Indonesia whenever I want. And if I hope nothing bad happens, but if there's emergency, I can just go without hassle, without anything. So, yeah, like now I'm staying here, but with this, hopefully, with the remote work and freelancing, I hope to like be flexible in terms of location.
No.
What do you think is your biggest success so far? What would you
Oh,
define as your biggest success? And another question I've got, what is success for you? Because
okay.
everybody got different
Yeah.
view about it.
So my biggest success, I would say, in terms of career or
Yeah. Yeah, we
yeah,
talk about career, yeah, in career
yeah.
plan.
I'd say, or like education maybe. I would say it's the whole thing about my journey to go abroad and first be accepted after 7 times rejected and to succeed journalism master's degree in my third language in a foreign country. I think this is something that I'm proud of, and I also like pat my back to like, hey, you succeed. So yeah, I think this is the two things that I would say like my biggest success, because it was not easy. It was one of the hardest. I think it was the hardest period in my life that I'm proud I overcome.
And what is success for you
Oh yeah.
as
So
a
what's success for me? Success for me is, I think, where you feel happy with what you have. You don't have to have a lot. It depends on what you want, of course. If what you want is just a job that pays and that you like doing, and then you're happy doing it, I would say it's a success. But if you want more, if you want like seven figures, then what I would say success is when you achieve that. So for me, success, it depends on what you want, what makes you happy. And if you achieve that, even though it's not what success means for other people, but if you're happy with that, it's already success for me.
I think that's a really good summary. Really good summary. That's very good, Septia. Yeah, I
Thank you.
think we both agree with that.
What about you guys?
I
So,
definitely agree with you. I think to be able to do what you love to do and to, obviously to be free to do it, I think it's great. And to find this balance in your life when you are just happy with what you've got, where you are, and
Yeah.
just to enjoy every single day.
mm.
I think this is gonna, I would classify as success.
Yeah.
And for me, I would say definitely success is looking back on the things that you've done, and each job that you've done, each achievement, level by level, you look back and think that that went well. Um, every time you can look back and see the satisfaction, you can see the reflection of the people around you, whether they appreciate that, and that gives you a level of satisfaction. I think that's probably more important even than the financial success. I think it's really important to be able to take on board every achievement you make and to move it forward. And I think that's a really a good step. And if you can, because then you can move on to the next step. And the things that you learn as well from as you make those little successes, there's things you always think I could do better. And that then the next time you do the next job and the next project, you've got the opportunity to build on that previous learning. And because I always say every day is a school day, every day is a day when we learn something. So success is altering all the time, and it's you can use it
Yeah.
to benchmark for the next step. And I think this is a good way for life to go.
Yeah, exactly. When you succeed, like you overcome one challenge, and then you succeed, like you reach one goal in your life, and then in the future you maybe have this and the next goal, the next challenges. You will look back, and then you're like, "Wait, I overcome that, so I think I can do it again this time."
And I think you're a great proof of that, Septia, in terms of what you've done. Because to be honest, I think it's one of the biggest challenges I've ever witnessed, to see someone have that incredible determination and to actually do a qualification. I'm sure there are a few people have done it, but most people would have probably had to be master of the language much more than you were when you came across to achieve that and to get the masters. I think that's phenomenal
Yeah.
achievement, and you should be very proud, definitely. And I'm sure your family are very proud of you too.
Thank you so much. But it's true, like you said, I use this to assure myself that I can overcome the next challenge because look, I overcome that. That was really hard, but you could do it. So now you can do this next challenge. So yeah,
Definitely, definitely.
You can.
thank you
And
so
I'm sure you
much.
will be a great inspiration for our listeners, for our
I really hope
audience.
so.
Because, yeah, this is what we want to. And you inspire me. I think I'm going to share my
Really?
story at some point. You
Oh,
are inspiring me as well.
I'm
Yes,
looking
it
forward
is
to see that.
great. It's a long
So,
road
Sepsi,
ahead.
where can people find you if they want to find you for either for work to obviously to send opportunities to your way? Where would the best place? Obviously on LinkedIn, I guess, is your
Yeah.
main place.
Yeah, the main platform you can find me is on LinkedIn. It's maybe hard to spell it in the text, but it's Septia Rahma Khairunisa. I hope it will be written there somewhere,
Yeah,
so
we
it's
will.
We'll
easier.
write it for you.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
It's easier for people to find me. But yeah,
Yeah, thank you, Septia.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much for your time. And yeah, obviously, after that long time waiting to have this interview, yeah, thank you very much. We wish you all the best. We'll keep an eye on you on LinkedIn.
Thank you
And
so much.
hopefully, yeah, we'll meet again. And if you ever come in UK,
Oh,
message us. Will be pleasure to meet you
I
Absolutely,
will be
Septia.
in
amazing.
real.
Yeah, we
I
look
would,
forward to meeting you.
I would definitely hit you up if I come to UK.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Would be
Septia.
great.
So, everyone, thank you very much for your time today listening. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast with Septia. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do subscribe and do give us a like if you've enjoyed the content. And if you're watching on Spot or listening on Spotify, please do give us a follow. We thank you all for your time to listening to us today, and we look forward to meeting you next time. Take care. Bye bye.